Hi, I'm Ethan, and in this third part of my 10-part tutorial series for Unity, we are going to be learning how to make textures for the border as well as make prefabs so we can make props that the border will run into. In the last video, we covered how to make physics objects such as this hill and this ball. So just to recap, if we click the play button, the boulder will roll down the hill and then it'll move out of view. And it's just going to keep falling. Let's pause here. So now we want to give this scene a little bit of glamour, a little bit of a shine. So it's necessary that they aren't just plain old textures, right? There's no real art on them yet. They're just colors. So we want to make textures for them to look nicer, because any respectable game is going to have more than just solid colors for all of their sprites and all of their objects. So to start, we're going to need to install some packages. So Unity comes with a lot of packages that really speed up the game development process, but they also come with more packages that you can install at a later date. So in this case, we are going to be installing a universal render pipeline package. So to do that, we are going to click Window, which is over here at the top. We're going to click Package Manager. So here, you can see that there's, well, nothing here because, I searched up something already. So when you're in Package Manager for the first time, by default, you should see something like this. So at the top of the Package Manager window, you'll see that we're in project. So this means that it's only displaying a list of all the packages that we already have installed. So for our case, we want to install a new package. So in order to do that, we're going to want to click here. So click Packages in Project, and then click Unity Registry. This is a list of all of the packages that come with Unity when you installed it. And you can now download these and implement them into your game. So for now, we're going to search up Universal RP. So Universal RP, and I already had it clicked, so it was already showing up on the right. But in your case, you can search up Universal RP in the search box over here, and then this should show up. So this is basically a way that this is basically a package that enables artists and just other developers to create their own textures to use in their game. So it involves a shader graph, which should be familiar to people who use other engines like Blender and Maya. So in my case, I already had it installed, but there should be an install button in place of this remove button if you don't have it installed already. So once you've got that installed, we are going to make pipeline assets that will enable us to use the universal pipeline asset, which is basically related to things like lighting, textures, and art. So the first thing we're going to do is make a pipeline asset. So go to your project window down here, and we are going to right click, we're going to create, and we're going to make a folder for now, just to keep it neat. So I'm going to make a folder, left click there, I'm going to name it, pipeline, and then I'm going to double click pipeline so that we're in the folder. I'm going to right click again in the project window. I'm going to go to create. I'm going to go to rendering, universal render pipeline, and then make a pipeline asset. So I'm not going to change the name. I'm going to left click away from it. It's going to create two things. That's intended. I'm going to right click over here, create again, rendering, universal render pipeline, and then I'm going to choose 2D render experimental. So now that we have that, select the universal render asset that you have. So it's this one. It's this one in the middle in my case. So it should say exactly this, universal render pipeline asset, because we haven't changed the name. So what you want to do is you want to select the asset, and you want to drag render data into it, which is this one. So this should say new 2D render data. So again, select your universal render pipeline asset and drag your new 2D render data into the inspector window and into this. Cool. So now select your third thing that you've made, which should be universal render pipeline asset underscore renderer. It's a bit of a mouthful, but take this and delete it. So I just pressed the delete button on my keyboard, and I'm just going to delete it. So at this point, you want to go into edit. So all the way up here, click edit, and then go all the way down to project settings. And then choose graphics. So click graphics. And over here at the very top, you should see this none. So we want to select something for that. We want to click here and then click universal render pipeline asset, which is the asset that we just made. So X out of those, I selected that and I X out of those. And now I want to select the main camera. And yeah, so select the main camera. And when you see it, when you select it now, there's a bunch of new properties in the inspector. So this is just a result of the fact that we have the universal render pipeline. And under rendering, so some of these are going to be collapsed. So just click here and drop them down. Post processing, make sure that is checked. Make sure that is enabled. So now we want to make a new material because we want a material which is going to be what's actually giving our circle and our hill a texture. So I'm going to go into assets. Actually, no, I'm going to go into my materials folder. If you don't have a materials folder, that's fine. You can, go to create. I right click in the project window, went to create, went to folder, and then I just made a materials folder and put my materials in there. So in my case, I already have 2 sprites in here. So these, both of these are just PNGs that I dragged into the project window earlier. So you can use whatever PNGs you want. I used, perfectly square PNGs so that it's just better for textures like this. So in my materials folder, I already have these 2 PNGs that I just dragged in. And now I'm going to right click again. I'm going to go to create. I'm going to go to material. So it's going to make a new material. This is going to be what we're ultimately going to be dragging onto our boulder. And then we're going to make another one, and that we're going to be dragging onto our hill. So I'm going to rename this. I'm going to right click it. I'm going to click rename. Name this stone material. So we're going to leave that alone for now. Now what we want to do is make a new shader. So what we want to do is I'm going to go back into assets. I'm going to right click. I'm going to create shader universal render pipeline sprite unlit shader graph. I'm going to name this to stone underscore shader. And then in the top right, in the inspector window, I'm going to click open shader editor. So now this should open a new window which should appear next to your scene in your game. And this is going to be where we're actually going to make the shader that's going to make our stone look like a stone. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to right click in the empty space, click create node, and then I'm going to select sample texture. And we want to double click on sample texture 2D, and we want 2 of these. So first I'm going to drag this down. I'm going to select it, Control C, and then Control V. So now we have 2 sample textures, which is what's actually going to be getting used as like the foundation of how we're going to be making this texture. So, but we need to make textures now. So I'm going to click back into my materials folder, and we want our stone material to be put onto our circle. So in this case, I'm going to do something, which is I'm going to right click in our project window. I'm going to go create. I'm going to go to 2D, sprites, and circle. So I'm not going to name it anything. But now we have this circle. Now you'll see there's a little triangle icon next to it, and this means that it's a texture 2D. So that means we're going to be able to drag this into here. I'm just dragging it straight from the project window into the stone shader. Boom. So now you can see that this node has our circle. And then in this other node, I'm going to drag in my stone texture. Again, this texture can be anything you want. So now we have these two, but we're not doing anything with them yet. So I'm going to drag these over here. I'm going to right click in empty space again, create node. I'm going to search for multiply. And then here I'm going to be multiplying the alpha of our circle. So this A, I'm going to be dragging it into this first one. I'm going to take the RGBA, which is the red, green, blue, and alpha, our stone texture. And then I'm going to be dragging it into the other slot. And now we have a circular stone texture. But we need to first make sure that it's actually getting inputted into the final thing, our final product. So boom, just like that. And now you can see in the preview, it looks like a stone texture with some weird stuff on the side, which is just a result of it being a 3D sphere, except this is in a 2D project. And the next thing we want to do is we want to click this plus sign. I want to create a texture 2D. We're gonna rename this to main underscore main text. It has to be exactly like this. I'm gonna select it, and on the right, I'm gonna go to node settings, and then you see that reference property, reference parameter. I'm gonna change that to underscore main text as well. This is absolutely vital for the shaders that we're making here. So I'm gonna make another sample texture. Right click, create node, sample texture 2D. I'm going to put it up here. I'm going to drag our main text out, and I'm going to drag from here to here. So just drag our main text into the texture for the sample texture 2D. And then from here, I'm going to drag the alpha of our main text into here. So now, finally, we should have a stone texture. And I'm going to go back into our scene view. I'm going to select our stone material that we made earlier, which was just empty. And we're going to go into the inspector, click shader. Well, not click shader, but click the drop down tab next to shader. And then search for stone shader. So I named it stone shader, so I'm just going to search stone. And it should be right there. I'm going to left click on it, boom. So now we have a stone material. And to put it onto our circle, it's as easy as just dragging it from the project window into the scene. And it's a little hard to see, and that's because our circle is black. So we want to make it white so that it all really comes out. So I'm going to change it from black to white. And look at that. So now we have a texture on our circle. And I'm going to do the exact same steps for our dirt, for our hill. So I'm going to make a material, create material, dirt underscore material. I'm going to go into my assets. I'm going to create, let's see here, shader, universal render pipeline, sprite unlit shader graph, dirt shader, open shader editor. I'm going to speed through this since we pretty much just did these exact steps earlier. Okay, so I'm going to drag our dirt block into here. I'm going to make a square because our hill is a square. Create 2D sprites square. I'm just going to drag this into here. Let's see here, nope, sorry, that's not what I wanted to make at all. Create node, multiply. That's your alpha of this one, RGBA of this one. Drag this into base colors. Let's see here. Make another sample texture. Make another main text. Yeah, underscore. It has to look like this. Underscore main text, select this, node settings, underscore main text. Here, drag this into here, alpha into here. Save asset, scene. Now we should have a dirt shader. I'm gonna move both of my shaders into materials, just so it's even neater. And then I'm going to select my dirt material, change the shader to dirt shader, drag this onto a hill, change it from dark to whiter, and look at that. So that's it. Now we have a texture of some grassy dirt hill and some stone on our hill and our boulder. So that's going to be it for this video. I've already taken a long time just to explain how to put shaders and textures onto your materials and sprites. But now you know how to take whatever texture you want and then put it into a shader, and then take that shader, put it onto a material, and then take that material and put it onto the sprite that you want it to. So yeah, so now you know how to do that. And in the next video, we're going to finally start to get into the pushing boxes that I've been promising for the last two videos. Thanks.